Okay, today we're going to go through the parts of the rat. One of the first parts we're going to look at is the trachea. And if you notice, we're in the neck. Alright, so if you lift up this white structure right there on top of my probe, if you were to feel of it, you could feel little cartilaginous rings inside of it. It's rough, just like if you were to feel in your neck, you could feel them. Right up under the trachea is this smooth tube, and it's called the esophagus. It runs right down behind the trachea and into down behind the heart and then into the stomach. Right here behind the rib cage is the thoracic cavity, and if you open this up you'll see the heart and the lungs behind that. Now the thoracic cavity is separated from your abdominal cavity by what we call the diaphragm. The diaphragm is just a muscular structure, and you can see it right here. Alright, so open up the thoracic cavity. You can see the lungs on that side and a lung on this side, and the heart sits in the center. The lungs are lobed, and so that's why it looks like there's more than one, but you actually only have a right one and a left one. Okay, so again we have diaphragm, the muscular structure that separates your thoracic and your abdominal cavity. Alright, connected to that you'll see this ligament right here, and it's connected to the liver. Alright, the liver is just one liver, and it's also lobed, so that's why it looks like this. If the rat had a gallbladder, it would be somewhere in the liver. It's a little green sac. The rat doesn't have a gallbladder, but you're still expected to know it for the human torso and for pictures. Right up under the liver you'll see this structure, which is the stomach, and then under the stomach you will find the spleen. Now if you lift the stomach, the liver, and the spleen up and kind of pull some of this fat out of the way, you'll see this grainy looking material. It goes all the way from the bottom of the spleen all the way across to the small intestine, and that is called the pancreas. So all of that right in here is the pancreas. Now below that you can see the small intestine. If I take the small intestine and I spread some of it out like this, you can actually see this clear material, and it's actually got veins, capillaries. It's got a blood flow that goes through it to supply the intestines with blood, and it's called the mesentery. Alright, this large sac down here that looks almost like another stomach, that's called the cecum. The cecum is actually a structure that's going to separate your small intestine from your large intestine. Now, the easiest place to see the large intestine is to pull all of this back out of your way, and then if you will look for the cane shape, then that's the large intestine. So the cane shape toward the back is the large intestine. Now if you lift the rest of all this up, there's a kidney on this side on the left, and then if you flip to the other side and look underneath the liver, you'll see the other kidney. Now the other thing you need to know how to do is to tell whether it's a male or a female. Now on external structures, to find out if it's a female, you look right here at the legs. Look between the two back legs, and you can see how it's almost flat right across here. Okay, that should let you know that it's a female. Another way, if you're not sure, is to go inside the body cavity and to look for what we call the uterine tubes and the ovaries. Now this female is somewhat pregnant, and so her uterine tubes, which are these small little tubes right here, they're actually going to Y over your large intestine. Okay, so they sit kind of like this, like that. Now each one of these little knots you see, that's a baby in this case, whereas if she was not pregnant, it would look more like this side over here where it's smaller. If you were to take and detach this uterine tube from the back wall and feel the tip of it right there, you would feel a little knot. That knot is the ovary. So you need to make sure you know the female structures. And then the female's bladder, if you'll find right in here, you'll see a little structure that sticks up. That is the urinary bladder. Okay, so now we're going to move to the male rat and look at the reproductive organs in him so that you can tell the difference. Okay, again, you might want to move all of this. You would move all of this out of the way. And then you're going to look down in here. Now, this male rat is actually, I think, missing one of his seminal vesicles. But it's just this little structure right here. I always say it looks like a snail. It's kind of swirled around and it's bumped. It's got bumps and ridges all over it. Right in front of the seminal vesicles, he would have this little piece right here. Now that is actually the urinary bladder in the male. It's going to look a little bit different than it does in the female. And then right above the urinary bladder, these swells right there are going to be the prostate gland. Alright, the male's penis is actually right in this area right here. If you find where he urinates from and you feel right along the surface of the skin, you'll feel the bone that runs through there. And so just to make sure you know, if I tagged something or pointed out something that's down in the body cavity, it's most likely going to be seminal vesicles, the bladder, or the prostate gland, because the penis is right along the surface of the skin. Alright, and then we talked about looking at another way to tell that it's a boy. If you look again between his two back legs, if you remember from the female, she was more flat right across here. The male, however, has this large sac that comes out down between his legs, and on each side you can see one of the testes here and one of the testes over here. That is going to be the scrotum. The female, of course, lacks that part, so that's one way you can tell. Now, if it's an immature male, he may be lacking this. Maybe his testicles haven't dropped yet, so you would need to go inside to find out whether it was a male or not. And again, make sure you know all those parts on the human torso and on the rat and the pictures of the rat in your lab manual.